edit. We're gonna add in
I'm actually
Facebook.
in my studio today.
Awesome. That's great. Cool. Cool. All right. Yeah. And so I'm gonna do this real quick here and just yeah. No, right. So what I will do is this. Hold on. And so we'll go to. All right. Hold on. Twitch. Cool. 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 Awesome. You know what I might do? Huh. Figure that out next time. Let's see here. Okay, good. All right, here we go.
All right.
I would like to welcome Nicole Funicelli, also known as Nietzsche, to the Amani Experience podcast.
What's up, Amani? How
What's
are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Hanging in there. COVID times, but still working,
Yes, we still got to work. We cannot stop. Tell the
Nope.
listeners, first of all, where you are right now, and then where did you grow up?
So right now I'm at my recording studio, Jenga Productions. I'm actually the only one here, so don't stress about stay at home. I'm also taking a lot of precautions, wearing mask and gloves, which is so important. Everyone stay at home, or if you can isolate yourself, like us songwriters are used to doing, be at your studios. And I'm originally from New Jersey.
So, how did you? Well, first of all, I understand that Whitney Houston is your vocal icon and queen. How did this
She,
come to be?
so it's kind of interesting. My parents growing up were involved in making toys. So if you ever saw the movie Big, that giant piano was something that my parents created. And it was also like a prototype type of thing, like one of the first karaoke machines was called Singalodian. Um, and they basically had these tapes laying around that were like these demo tapes of, like, when you go to a karaoke bar, there's tons of different songs from the same artist, but these tapes were unique to the one artist. So the one of the first ones that they created was this Whitney Houston tape. And I learned every Whitney song of life and just on repeat. It was my obsession. She was my obsession. It was like my complete everything. And I just liked her story too. Just coming from humble beginnings in church, which is where I come from, although I come from Catholic church, which is quite different. I just really resonated with her story. She's the best national anthem of all time, for
Amen.
sure,
For sure.
in my opinion. But I think a lot of people share that opinion. The white jumpsuit, like her whole situation, she was just,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm gonna get emotional thinking about her
All right, we won't get
passing
emotional,
away.
but I will have to ask one. I have to ask one follow up question. I think Marvin Gaye had number two national anthem, but for you,
Oh yeah.
if you could pick, like, what's your go to Whitney Houston song to sing or kind of always listen to?
Um, I love One Moment in Time. I think it's one of like the underrated Whitney songs, although it was like huge. I think that it's got a huge message. I like obviously her up tempos.
Yeah.
I just love everything that she's ever done and ever will, you
Cool.
know, continue to be released probably without her permission. But she's a queen.
For sure. For me, all at once, I used to play that on the saxophone, and then How Will I
Oh,
Know? I like that
oh,
one.
how will I know?
Yeah,
Yeah, that
yeah, for
one's,
sure.
yeah,
How did you find your
awesome.
way from New Jersey to California?
Well, I went to school for musical theater. I'd been singing my whole life. My dad's a guitar player, and he's like a Berkeley guy, so I grew up with a lot of like heavy jazz influence. I was in every choir you could imagine, just that dorky choir kid. And I pursued musical theater at a performing arts college, which was an amazing experience. Pretty much right out of school, I started working and touring. So when I was like 18, I started on the Dancing with the Stars tour, just singing in Vegas and around the country. I toured with Darlene Love and Edna Wright and the Honeycomb for a really long time, which was an awesome
Nice.
experience, just backup singing for them and getting your chops from like ladies of that time is like, it's a different experience. It's wild. Like their etiquette backstage, um, their mic technique, just their general professionalism. When you see that and you're 18, you're just like, oh my God. So I started in LA acting and also doing like backup singing. And then I quickly realized that being an artist was like my main focus. So I actually opened a recording studio with my brother, and it was a recording studio. It was like a rehearsal room that we were using as a studio. It wasn't soundproof. We didn't know anything. And my brother and I have been working together since I was like, 13 or something.
Right.
So
Right.
we'd been recording. He happens to be a sound engineer, so it all worked out. He's very much on the technical side of things, while I stay on the creative side of things. So it's a win-win situation. And this is my fourth recording studio that I've owned in LA, if we're counting the first one, which was like a studio.
For sure.
But yeah, so this is like the fourth iteration. This is actually in the old Black Eyed Peas studio. So they were here, and Will was here for like 20 years, and we took over 5 years ago.
Nice. Let's rewind really quickly. Tell us about the relative that would take you out of school and have you go and sing with them when you were like 12 or 13.
Oh, I have. So she was not a relative, but she was. She was like an unofficial grandma. Her name was Maddie,
Right.
and she passed away a few years ago. She was the organist at my church, and she would actually pull me out of school since like the age of 11. So Kind of Dark would get pulled out of school for like funerals a lot of times to
Yeah.
sing at a funeral, which is kind of a weird experience when you're a kid, because you don't understand why everyone's crying. You don't understand really what's happening other than you're doing what you love, but it's also bringing out this immense emotion in people. And if you know anything about like Catholic church music, it's all minor, it's all very dark. There's a lot of great contemporary stuff now, but at least at that time, it was all like you were trained in Latin. You had to learn like kind of darker songs, especially for funeral times. But Maddie was the one who really took me under her wing and like taught me how to cantor at church. Would rehearse relentlessly, like hours and hours of just like theory and music with me, and her little husband would come and pick me up at school and be like, it's time to do a wedding, time to do a funeral, and
Yeah.
I'd get paid my $75 or $150 or whatever it was, but to a kid that was like, oh my God, it's so much money. So it was a cool experience, and I am very grateful to her for everything that she taught me. She spent so much time with me, and I'm sure I was really annoying at 11.
That's all right. That's all right. We got to learn somehow.
Yeah.
Talk to us. How would you summarize yourself where you are right now in 30 seconds or less?
Where I am?
Yes.
Like physically, or you mean just career-wise, or?
Like career-wise, life-wise, like where are you right now?
I feel like I'm in a really positive place, even though this is an interesting time with COVID and everything. I actually think creatives are winding up thriving during this time. The challenges of not being able to be with other people are interesting and really cool, because it makes you think outside the box. So I feel really good. I'm an artist. I have a studio. I'm still working in voiceover. So, I mean, I love where I am right now. I've kind of been through a lot of bullshit in the industry.
Yeah.
And I feel like you have to do that. So I don't know if that was 30 seconds, but
It was
like, I'm happy.
That's the most important point for
Yeah.
sure. Speaking of creatives, what do you think is important for creatives such as yourself, myself, to succeed in today's business environment?
Okay, I'm actually teaching a workshop on this right now. I think
All right.
collaboration is everything. What we're doing right now,
Hmm.
and just the art of collaboration, because we met at like SyncCon, right?
Yes, yes, we did.
So it's like this is everything, right? We just randomly met. We were talking on the way back from being in some music supervisor workshop, right?
Yes.
And
Hmm.
so then we just had a very brief conversation, exchanged information. You followed up. I flaked a couple times, not on purpose, but it did happen. So, and then we wound up doing this. But the art of collaboration is like my number one uh, recommendation to artists, creatives, even people that are in the corporate world. I mean, collaboration and relationships are everything, and keeping those strong and being good to people. I think
Yeah.
that's one of the mains, and treating people the way you'd want to be treated.
Hmm.
I think those are like my core ethics as far as creativity goes.
Excellent, excellent. I remember because we were in that breakout together, and you had some really good questions about music supervision. I was like, oh, I should kind of talk to you more because you like had some ideas, and in the future, I definitely want to learn more about you in terms of how do you get things placed in films and shows and everything. That's a different conversation for a different day. But this is like the start, like you say, just to start collaboration and get to know each other, and then keep moving forward.
Totally. So important.
When you think of your career, when do you feel was the turning point when you were like, this is working, I'm all in, and there's no turning back?
Truly, I have always, I know people give this kind of story all the time and it's cliche, but I've really always seen myself doing what I'm doing. I was one of those people that had a really clear vision since I was a kid. I'm not sure that I would be happy doing anything else besides music. So I don't know if there was necessarily a turning point. But when I started, obviously, like having some monetary gain, that is
Hmm.
validating for sure. And that was around 18, where you're not the only one that believes in yourself anymore. People are willing to give you money to do the thing you love doing, or people are willing to invest in you even emotionally.
Hmm.
When Maddie invested in me emotionally, and time is the real commodity. So it's like when people are willing to give you their time, that's like
Yeah.
instant validation for me anyway, that I'm on the right path. I don't know if there was necessarily a point though for me. I think I've
Yeah.
always really seen it.
Yeah. You're very fortunate then. Props to you for sure. Why do
Well,
you?
there's been roadblocks on the way, but I mean, I've
Yeah.
always I've always wanted the same thing.
For sure. We'll talk about the roadblocks in a minute too, for sure.
Mhm.
Why do you love what you do?
That is such a good question. It makes me happy and it brings joy to others. I think music is one of those things that's just so universal. And I think right now, the climate we're in is such a testament to that. People in this time, people are seeking out artists, they're seeking out creatives because that's what inside our hearts is like really there. Like people are looking to us to give them this feeling, this endorphin that they
Mhm.
are a little confused about right now, or even just like the release of writing songs. It's therapy,
Yeah.
as you know, but it really is therapy. So I do it because it feels good.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you get in the mode for writing, and how do you prevent yourself from getting burned out? Because I know a lot of times you could write, 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 and then you can't get back to the pen and paper for 6 months, a year. How do you manage that?
Well, I think there's a lot of different things. I write for myself and I write for other people. So with me, and this isn't the case for everyone, but with me, I enjoy both. Um, it's easy to get stuck when you overthink it. I always say overthink it and sink it, and then analysis paralysis are like not our friends. So I feel like if I'm in a session and it's like a label session, let's say, and I need to knock a song out in from top to bottom with the producer and a couple other writers, 4 hours, 4 to 6 hours, right? That's typical. So this is usually for like another artist, not for your own. So it's a pitch song. You're obligated to that timeline. So you make sure that your time management is on point. So by like, if none of you have really a solid idea by like the end of an hour and a half, you should just move on. I
Mm,
think not being married to every idea is really important because it's not all Shakespeare. Like Sometimes you come out with this incredible idea and you're blown away, and then the next day you're like, what was that? I hate
Right.
that. I hate what I wrote. And that's kind of like the endless growing process, I think, for artists. So for me, using things that are around me, I look at text messages all the time.
Interesting.
I draw stories from other people. I really like storytelling, interesting stories. So I look to other people's stories sometimes, third person versus first person. I have a lot of like tools that help me kind of break through that. But I think when you are stuck, that's totally normal, and you should just give your brain a rest
Yeah.
and find something that inspires you. For me, I can look around and because of years of repetition and practice at the same thing, I can pull something from situations. But I love people. So I thrive in that environment. A lot of people are introverted and they don't thrive when they're
Yeah.
like around other individuals. So I understand that that would probably be challenging, but I would say just try and find inspiration in simpler things.
Good.
Um, just simple stories. They don't all have to be the next great story of, all time. And they can just be, it's a simple story. Some of our favorite songs are simple stories that have
Yes.
poetry attached to them or a beautiful melodic, thing
Yeah.
happening. So yeah, I think just finding daily inspiration.
Just so everyone understands, when you write the lyrics, harmonies, melodies, everything. You do it all, correct?
Sometimes I think it depends on the situation. So I'm able to do songwriting, vocal production, which is all that building out the harmonies, building out the background vocals, um, working with the artist in the studio, and
Hmm.
being able to communicate with like different vowel sounds, different placements in your resonators, giving them confidence to get the best take. So I will do very light engineering when it comes to that in Pro Tools, but I would never call myself an engineer.
Got it.
And I think that's another part that I would say, back to a question you had before, where I answered collaboration is really important. I think also knowing reading the room and reading what best serves the song. So if I have 5 skills, that doesn't mean every time that I go into a session I need to use all 5 skills just to like show out. I can go in there and be confident that I have those 5 skills, but maybe I only need to use one because this other person is doing this better than me, or I'm learning something. I always want to be in the room with someone who can do something a little bit better so that I'm learning. So I think just keeping your ego like in check, and
Right.
also just reading the room and knowing how you can best support like the experience in the room.
Exactly. What advice do you give young songwriters who you meet who want to get started but don't know how, or are a little scared that they might not get accepted, or just fear? Their fear takes over from them.
I think you just have to start. You just
Hmm.
have to start. That's the only way that you're going to not only show your songs to your mom is by showing it to someone else. And it's one of the things that I also teach, like in this workshop that I'm teaching at a college right now. The first class was them bringing in whatever material they had. It could be spoken word, it could be like whatever it is, even if you're not a vocalist, that doesn't mean you don't know how to write a song, right? As you know, like there's so
Yeah.
many different roles within
Hmm.
songwriting, and they all just were forced to kind of share it with the whole class. I just do like shock therapy to them. But truly, after that, it's a supportive group of people. So they all felt so much better because I asked all of them, like, who's ever heard your stuff? Like, my
Hmm.
mom, my grandma, my dad, like my sister, people where it's like their safe zone. I think when you're scared, you're probably living in comfort, which is the worst place to be.
Yes. Yes.
In any situation, like you don't want to necessarily be too comfortable, because then you're not pushing yourself. So I think if you want to push yourself and you really do want to break through to that next thing, You have to be okay with, and it happens in the room with other people. Sometimes I'll pitch an idea and I'll be like, yeah, what do you think about like pink lemonade on that line? And the whole room looks at you and you're just silent. And you're like, oh, yeah, no, I didn't like it either. It's fine. I didn't even dig it. It's cool. But you have to just kind of move forward from that.
Yeah.
It's the same thing in auditioning. You can't really think about what the casting director is looking for. You just have to go in and be the best you and show up. So
Yeah.
I think if you're doing that consistently, you will be able to break through that fear. Building your confidence is the main thing.
Got it. What is
Try
some?
sharing.
Yeah, for sure. What is something that scares you?
Oof. Um, this COVID-19 scares the shit out of me right now. Am I allowed to curse? Sorry.
Yes, you can. Don't
Okay,
worry.
okay. I should have asked before, but I just went for it.
Go for
Yeah. No, I mean, COVID, something like this, a pandemic, is terrifying. I think in the back of everyone's mind, failure. If you're talking about creatively, what scares me, I think failure. But at the same time, the logical part of my brain tells me that failure is not an option. So I think when you're wired like that, like it's a little crazy, but I think you understand there's no plan B. So you got to make it work.
it.
Um, yeah, I would say like this pandemic and failure.
That's two big things. So yeah, we'll take
Terrifying,
it.
both terrifying.
Yeah. Now, the industry that you're in, whether it be songwriting, singing, it's very crowded. How do you rise above all the noise and distinguish yourself from the competition?
I think having a vantage point is the most important thing you could have as an artist, and as a songwriter. I think having like a strong stance on like whatever your stance is, there is a place for everyone. Even though it feels crowded, not everyone is doing just Latin pop records. Not everyone is doing just little, niche Regina Spektor sounding records, which there is a place for everything. And I think finding solace in that and also knowing that that's true because of your experience is important. So I think just being yourself, being comfortable with your own self, and being true to your ideals. I think
Yeah.
staying true to that, and having a vantage point. Like, don't be wishy-washy. Like, know where you stand on something, which
Yeah.
comes along. It goes along with confidence.
Agreed. Now, how has a failure or an apparent failure set you up for success? Do you have a favorite failure of yours?
Hmm. Um. Okay. Yeah. Sure. I can talk about that. I have a situation where when I was really young, I was working at an agency, a talent agency, just interning, and they were not paying me. I was there so often, and I love these people, so it's actually no bad blood, but I'll just give you an example. So I wound up working there for like 2 years, making them a ton of money, just asking, can I get paid? Can I get paid? So finally they were like, yeah, we'll pay you off the books, like a very low amount, like an insulting amount of money. And then finally they cast me in something that they were producing. And although that personal relationship was like so strong with these people, I just felt like something wasn't right. And I found out what everyone else was getting paid on this show. And I felt, which is like number one, you don't talk about that, right? It's like rule number one, don't discuss your stuff with other people. But I was like 18, so I didn't know, or 19. And I said something to the agent, like the head agent at this big agency at the time. And I said, like, why is this? If you care about me, why am I not being compensated properly? And I had to distance the relationship. I had to cut it off, which was honestly, I was crying. I felt like these people were like my family, and I felt like I was betraying them by leaving. But in the end, everything that I learned there, I don't look at it now as a failure. At the time I did. I was like, I should have just made it work. They were a great agent. Like, they were an awesome agency. I don't like to burn bridges. But at the same time, I knew in order to take the next step in this industry and go to the next tier of things, that I had to take care of myself first. So I guess I learned that lesson, number one. And then number two, I learned a lot about the behind the scenes of the entertainment industry, the business side of it, which comes in so much handy now.
Yes, it does.
And also how to handle myself with higher ups, executives, which as a woman in the industry is very difficult when you're first stepping in, especially when you're like a teen and you kind of semi know what you're talking about, but you kind of don't. Maybe you're not as educated as you should be, but you're a little educated on it and you need to learn a little more and maybe speak a little less, but you just go for it. Yeah, I think I learned some of those lessons like the hard way.
Right.
But now they serve a much better purpose in my life because I would never do those same things again.
Right.
Hindsight 2020.
2020, the beauty of learning lessons. I love it. Now, as you've grown in your career, you've acquired lots of success, you know, you've gotten lots of achievements, you've grown, started your own business. As a result, you might acquire some haters, critics we call them, or haters as we call them. How do you handle your critics?
I just don't care. I don't, I mean, yes, it hurts to like have people that don't like you, but at the same time, it's maybe that's like a Jersey attitude. It's like you just can't care what other people think. It's the same thing in music. If I cared about what everyone thought of every single song, you have to look at where the criticism is coming from. A lot of times people that are haters are really unhappy with their own lives, and it's rather sad when it does happen. Because sometimes you'll find out the backstory about these people and you're like, oh wow, they're hating because they have this deep rooted hate for themselves. So I think the way that I deal with haters is just like, fuck them. You know? I mean, there's nothing I can do to make them happy. And if they can't make themselves happy and that's how they want to deal with it, then that's fine. Yeah. You know, that live and let live.
How do you handle criticism when it comes from like a legit source, someone who really cares and kind of has, you know, a legit reason to offer criticism?
I try and really put myself in their shoes and take that criticism and learn. So like depending on the source, if it's a creative criticism, I try to just implement whatever the criticism was before I shoot it down. It's a combination of like trusting your own instincts, but also knowing when to take that criticism. So, and it goes back to ego. So like if someone that I really respect or their work, no matter if they're like on a huge level or not, just someone that I enjoy their work and I really respect them as a human. If it's from like a personal standpoint, I will always take that advice if it's someone that cares about me, that I mutually care about. And then if it's someone creatively, I think it's like that combination and that balancing act of like trusting your own instincts, but also knowing who to take that advice from.
Got it.
And it's an important thing because you don't want to just always resist that advice and that criticism because a lot of times it's out of love or out of them wanting success for you and seeing something that you can't see.
Yeah, understood.
Because you're close to it.
Too close sometimes, yes. Tell us about the darkest time in your life, how you got through that, and what did you learn from that experience?
So I worked in a nightclub when I was first in Los Angeles between gigs, and I was a bottle service girl. I was doing bottle service, and I got actually beat up by a bunch of bloods at the club, and I was in a neck brace for a year. I couldn't work. I couldn't work on music. I couldn't work on anything. It was a horrible, horrible time. I was 21. It was like just a really terrible time in my life. And I didn't want to say anything to my people on the East Coast because they would immediately be like, come back. I'm so close with my family. I'm very fortunate. I have a big family, a big Italian family.
Right.
So I'm really close with them. And I knew that they cared about me. So I didn't actually say anything to anyone. And I would say the biggest thing that I learned from that is when you're in pain, you have to share it with someone. You can't just keep all that pain to yourself. No matter how strong you want to appear or how how well you think you have something together. There's a lot of trauma that comes with like almost dying, and also like not telling anyone about it. So I would say the biggest thing that I took from that is that you can turn something really ugly into something beautiful if you can work through that creatively. You know, a lot of really great songs came from that time in my life where I thought I was going to die.
Mm-hmm.
But I also don't look at it now and think back like it was like gonna hold me back. I just think that I should have talked to the people that I know loved me sooner and just expressed how I was feeling so they could help me through that. I would say just talk to someone, even if it's not someone you love, talk to a professional, you know,
Right.
about those emotions because they're heavy and they do actually wind up coming back. They don't just go away. You know,
Oh,
you will have to talk about them at some point. So I think that was probably one of the darkest times in my life.
interesting. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Who has been the most influential person for you growing up?
I think my dad, between my dad and Maddie, um, my dad being a musician, the thing that he always taught me was practice, practice, practice. So
Mm-hmm.
he used to say, like, that's the only way to get to Carnegie Hall is practice, practice, practice. I've never been to Carnegie Hall,
Not
but
yet. Not yet.
not yet. But it's also not exactly been a goal as like a pop writer. But maybe someday, yeah, absolutely. But I think just the sentiment of that and that hard work does pay off, and um, I think that's been my main thing through everything because you know you really have to self sustain in anything creative, acting, music. You have to be your own source of joy because you are inevitably going to get more no's than yeses.
Mm-hmm.
But the no's don't really matter. The one yes matters. You know. So I think learning that from him at like a really young age and having that musical influence around was very important to me, and having a family member that understands you
Yeah.
is so important. And I'm very lucky. I come from a two-parent household. It's not the case for most people, and I have a very close relationship with my dad. So I think I was really fortunate and given like this gift of having a great relationship with my father, and he instilled all of these things in me at like a really young age, but also instilled like, but you still need to work your fucking ass off. Yes, you can have all the talent, you can have all the everything, like you can have that, right? And that's great. But if you want to actually do something with your life, you need to fucking work. You need to have 3, 4 jobs. I mean, I've had jobs since I was like, you know, like singing and stuff, but I've had jobs like jobs, you know, bussing tables and shit since I was like 13 years old. So I know what it kind of takes to build your own thing, like build your own business, save money waitressing, and put it all into the one thing that you really want. Like it feels good when you do that for yourself. It's part
Yeah.
of self love, I think. So yeah, my dad probably is that
Cool.
person for me.
You mentioned how you'll hear a lot more no's than you hear yeses. What have you done to grow your resilience muscle?
Oh my god, it's honestly it's a struggle. It's still a struggle. It never feels nice to pour all this work into something and then have someone just shit on it, you know, like or say that they don't like it. So I think it's a lot of self-love, a lot of self-belief, but it is a struggle, and I think it will always be a struggle to understand that not everyone is going to like your work all the time. Not everyone is going to like you as a person all the time. But that's okay. You know, knowing in your heart that that is fine, that that's okay, that that's totally normal, that everyone goes through it. I like watching people that I really respect. Like you hear like Bruno Mars's story, you know, and you hear that he showed up every day to Universal and he just relentlessly outside of, I think it was like, I think the Stereotypes had like a studio where Diane Warren's building is now for a
Mm-hmm.
long time. He would go out and he would just perform every day. They'd be like, no, you're shit. We're not going to work with you. No, 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 no. And now, you know, someone like that with all that talent, you know, and all that like ability,
Right.
just someone said no to that, you know? I know someone who brought Billie Eilish and Phineas in early on to a very big record exec that passed, you know, and you hear it about every single major artist.
Yeah.
Even if they don't share it, it's happened.
Yeah.
Not everyone likes everything. So I guess finding the joy, like what you said before, like why do you do it?
Right.
And if you're doing it to get other people's approval, this is not the
No.
industry for that. But when you do get the approval, right? Like when your fans do like fully resonate with your stuff, or they show up to your show, or they show up to your tour and they are there with you, that moment is worth all the no's. So for me, I really try to focus on like those moments where I've been like locked in with people and just locked in with that, you know, because that moment it's something different, and it's like a gift that we get as performers. But to feel that is worth like all the no's for me.
Okay. Yeah. In your opinion, what does it take to write and create a perfect or a beautiful pop song?
I think a great story just starts with an authentic story that a lot of people resonate with. So like I always think of Bob Dylan, like why do people resonate with this man, right? Like he is not the best vocalist. We know this. He knows this, you know, but his storytelling is so fucking good and his lyrics are so fucking here, you know, you can't not love it. Me included. I love it. Why do we love artists that technically like don't have the same amount of talent as someone else? That's that thing that everybody's always talking about, right? Like it's a thing that you can't really put your finger on. So I think what creates that is the combination of a true story, a great vessel, the artist, you know, that it really believes in that story. And then, of course, the musicality, you know, like the musicality is part of the story to me, though. Like part of that storytelling, the biggest part is like not really the words to me. It's the melodies, it's the composition, it's the production, it's the feeling behind it. So I think if you can really convey like a strong feeling and a strong story that with an awesome artist, I think that's like the main thing that creates that magic for me.
Yeah, yeah. Beautiful. What do you find easy to do that your friends find hard to do?
I think going with the flow.
Okay.
Because it's an unstable industry. I think a lot of my friends that are not in music, that are not creative, are really they really like to focus on like plan. It's not like you don't need a plan, but you need a plan that you can be flexible on this path, you know, because nothing ever goes according to plan. So I think I'm really good at kind of being flex with like scheduling, let's say, for instance. I mean, the amount of times that people just cancel like last minute, myself included, but for reasons that are valid, you know.
Right,
people
right.
have auditions, people have another session, they got overbooked, something came up, like now they're on tour with whoever. So I think the ability to be flexible is something that I think I'm good at, but also that takes a long time to kind of like learn.
Okay, okay. And what would you like to be better at?
I would love to be better at consistency with a lot of stuff. I would love to be better at, I mean, the business side of things. That's always growing. I think I feel really confidently creatively. I would love to refocus. Like this year for me is about refocusing on my own artist stuff. I really let it, I would say like the past 5 years, I've been really focused on other artists and giving in that way. And I don't resent that at all. I love it. I love the work that I've done in the past 5 years. But for this year, for me, is about that refocusing. So I think that the consistency across all things would be great for me to improve upon. And also just general kindness. I always think that like trying to put yourself in someone else's shoes. Like I really, really, truly like live that way and try to be that way and be a joy for people. Which is not always easy. You know, sometimes you could feel like a little squeezed out lemon if you're someone that fully gives that energy, right? Like you just feel it. Oh, everybody sucked the life out of me today.
Right.
But I think it's important for your own like value for yourself, but also to be there for people. I would like to be better at that too.
Okay. Now, when you turned 21, were you out here in LA or were you still in Jersey?
No, I was out in LA. I
Okay.
moved to New York and then I moved to LA.
Okay.
And then actually the tail end of 21 I was in Vegas.
So we're going to talk to you when you just turned 21
Mhm.
and give 21-year-old Nicole advice based on what you know now. What advice would you give your younger self?
Oh my god. Okay. Don't trust everyone. How about like don't scream because it's really bad for your vocal cords. Like don't
Mm,
scream at every freaking party.
yeah.
Um, don't try cigarettes; they're disgusting. Um, Save a little bit of cash flow because you're touring right now. You're making great money. You should save that and maybe invest it in a Roth IRA.
Great
Not in like
advice.
not in like traveling on some trip. I don't know. I mean, I like 21-year-old Nietzsche, but I like now Nietzsche better than 21-year
Yep.
old
Okay.
Nietzsche. You
Okay.
know?
All right. All right. I dig it. I dig it. What do you feel is the one lesson in life that took you the longest to learn?
Oof. Let me think. Took me the longest to learn, and that I'm still learning is to trust myself.
Mm.
Trust your instincts on a number of things. Creatively, trust your instincts. You have to trust your gut when you meet people. That's a big one. That's a
Mm.
big one. In business,
Yeah.
vibe is everything, man. Like if you get a weird vibe from somebody right off the bat, trust that.
Hmm.
Trust that it's there for a reason. Trust your own self. So yeah, I think still working on that one. Like just um, trusting your own self.
Got it. Every great person has a sentence. What is your sentence? For example, my sentence is I love to help people unlock their creativity by teaching them how to DJ. What's your
That's
sentence?
awesome. I love
Thank you.
that sentence.
Thank you.
Oh, I didn't know you were a teacher.
Yes, yes, I
Cool.
teach. Yeah, definitely.
That's cool. Okay, my sorry, I stalled a little bit.
It's okay.
Uh,
Well done, well done.
maybe okay. I'll use my dad's. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. I live by that. I truly do. And hard work pays off. That's what I'm gonna go with.
Okay, practice. What's your practice routine?
Well, I vocalize every day. I do at least a half hour vocal warm ups every single day. I practice songwriting every day. Um, I'm trying to learn how to play the omnichord, which is like
Oh,
not it's not a
okay,
hard thing to play, but learning
okay.
how to put songs together on that is good. I practice engineering
Mm,
at least like 2 to 3 times a week so that I'm
good.
quicker at that. Um, I practice following up with people. That's a big one. That
Yeah.
consistency, you know?
Hmm.
Following up with people is a big thing to keep relationships alive because sometimes you forget how many people you know and love and that feel the same. So I practice following up with people too. But yeah, vocalizing, if we're talking about like physical practice, I vocalize every day for at least 30 minutes.
Interesting.
Warm up.
They say the fortune is in the follow up. When you say you practice songwriting every day, what do you do? I'm really curious to hear what you do.
I mean, there's a number of things you could do. Like you could take a so many exercises. You could take a track that's already been written to, and you
Okay.
could look at, like, let's say you don't have access to a producer, which I do because I have a production company, right? So I do have that. So I'll take an old track. But if you don't have access to that, you could take a track that's already been written to. You could try to do a different top line to it. Try
Mm,
to do a completely different song, like completely different melody, completely different lyric, completely different everything, and try and make it a good song. Um, I look around the room. I could pick 5 song titles based on the things that I'm looking at in the room.
I like it.
Um, yeah,
Oh, okay.
you can do that. Just look at things in the room. Like I love Sia for Chandelier because apparently it was like the top. The label said like Chandelier is like one of the top SEO like searched words, right? And they gave her
Right.
the title, and she worked from the title, which I loved hearing about. And obviously, she's a genius. She's also like a,
Yes.
a muse for me. So I love
Hmm.
her. But like working from a title sometimes is so cool because what a weird title, Chandelier. But what a cool story to tell
Yeah.
about that chandelier because it has nothing to do with the chandelier, but it has everything to do with the chandelier, you know? The
Right. Right.
chandelier is the freedom, the chandelier is joy, you know? So I think working from song titles sometimes is really cool. I will, like I said, look at text messages and try and just write a few lyrics. And sometimes
Oh.
I'll just generally like record little voice note melodies that I have in my head.
Hmm. Hmm.
Sometimes they're very random. Like
Okay.
sometimes they're like, like whatever it is, and documenting that stuff.
Cool.
But your
Great.
voice record is your best friend on your phone for me,
Definitely.
anyway.
I like it. Those are some great tips. Thank you very much. I'm going to try a few of those very soon. So
Hell yeah!
love it. Love it. What is one new habit that you've added to your daily routine in the past year or so that has been most beneficial?
Oh, yoga. I do hot yoga now. Well,
Oh,
not now, but I do regular yoga now. But before COVID, I was doing hot yoga, which just it's so good for your body, but also for someone who's like really high energy like me, it's so good for your soul. And I just love everything about
yeah.
yoga.
Yeah.
And like it zens me out. It clears my mind to be able to be a better writer and be more present for people in my life. I love yoga. I do it every day.
Nice. I remember when I do Bikram, the best part is when you can get on the floor finally and kind of rest. That's the best part.
Oh yeah, because those 60-minute class, there's a point. There's a
Yes.
point where you're in the class and you're like, I am not gonna make it, but I'm
Yes.
gonna push through it because
Yes.
it's disgustingly hot in here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Once we get to the
So
floor, we're done. We're good.
right, right.
So we are really big readers here on the Money Experience podcast. If there was
Hmm.
one, two, or three books you feel people should stop what they're doing right now and start to read them immediately, what books come to mind?
Um. Okay, for vocalists, I would say reading and learning the International Phonetic Alphabet. So I
Mm.
have this book called Speak with Distinction,
Mm-hmm.
which has helped me so much with accents, with um, just learning diphthongs, like the different ways that vowel sounds work, and learning how they work within your mouth. Being able to manipulate that is like a really great tool. So I like Speak with Distinction. I really like those everything you need to know about the music industry
Yeah.
books.
Yeah. Donald
Like
Passman.
that whole series is great. I know it sounds basic, but like, and also like the Giving Tree, like that just says everything. Any um what's his name? Shoal
Yeah.
Silverstein, I
Shel
think is the
Shel
author.
Silverstein.
Shel
Yes.
Silverstein,
Yeah.
any of those books that make you
Cool.
happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shakespeare sonnets. I
Okay.
mean, I could go on.
That's a good list, though. That's a very diverse list too. I love it. What has been the best advice you've ever received?
Hmm, good question. Never give up.
Mm-hmm.
Just, keep going, even though it's hard. Continue, push through, keep swimming, you know, all those things that you hear, they're true. When you're sad, you need to get back up again.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
never give up.
Like it. I like it. Now, are you a sports fan at all?
You got the wrong
Good.
one.
Okay.
But I mean lightly because my family's sports fans. Like they love the Giants, they love the Yankees.
Okay. We'll do this. Let's say that you're going to go make a speech. You're going to be at the Staples Center. You're walking out on the court of the Staples Center. What song is playing as you walk out to the court?
Oh, the final countdown for sure.
Okay. All right. I thought you might
It's
pick a
got
Whitney song, but this is good.
gotta make it epic, baby.
All
Gotta make it
right.
epic and hilarious at the same time.
I love it. I love it. Tell the listeners how they can find you. We have like your socials right there on the bottom of the screen, but tell people where they can find you and how they can learn more about what you're doing.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm mostly on Instagram. So my IG handle is scrolling across the screen. It's
Hmm.
at Nietzsche Music. You can find my music on Spotify. It's also at Nietzsche Music on Spotify. That's where I'd love to send everybody to. I have all of my most recent stuff there. Twitter is also at Nietzsche Music. Facebook is facebook.com/like Nietzsche. And I'm very new to TikTok, but my handle is at Nietzsche Music Official. So
Done.
that's all the things.
I love it. All the things. Nietzsche is spelled Nicci as well. So
Yeah.
that's how you
And
spell that.
And if
Go
you
ahead.
want to learn more about the business, that's Jenga Productions. So you can just Google Jenga Productions and all the handles will come up, or at Jenga Productions anywhere.
Tell us, how did you come up with the name Jenga Productions?
Jenga means to build in Swahili. So when we first started, we didn't really want to limit ourselves to being just a recording studio. My partners, Shayon and Jim, like Shayon took a Swahili class in like college. And so that was his kind of contribution. I was like, I would love to do something about like building or to build. And that's why the game is these building blocks, because it means to build. So, we're constantly building and growing as a business. We're in LA. We're also in Nashville on Music Row. And then we're also a production company, not just a recording studio. So we do offer like all those services as well: production, songwriting, post-production sound, live sound, all that stuff.
Beautiful. The name Amani means faith in Swahili, FYI.
Oh, cool.
Yes. So, Nietzsche, just want to say thank you very much for appearing on the show. Like we talked about, you kind of caught my attention when we were at SyncCon. I'm looking forward to kind of getting to know what you do in terms of work more and figuring out how we can collaborate even more. This is a great start. And so, we just want to say thank you. We let our guests leave us with any last minute words of wisdom or advice. So I'll say thanks again and allow you to take us home.
Thank you guys so much for listening. Stay encouraged, be encouraged. I know this is a really tough time right now, but be encouraged. Know that we need creatives right now. So your value is so high right now, and just be well, stay safe, stay at home. That's my advice.
Great advice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amani.
All right, hold on real quick in broadcast.